Thank you.
Please, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you very much, and good morning to all of you. It really is a pleasure to be here, and for some reason I've got this David Bowie song in my head all the time. Absolute Beginners. It sounds an appropriate song for this event, because we begin, I hope, a very fruitful cooperation today. You know, if you look back a couple of years, adaptation was sort of the afterthought. We would say, you know, what we need to do is to make sure we stay within the boundaries that were set by Paris, and that means reducing our emissions, and don't talk about adaptation because it's sort of an admission of defeat if you need to adapt to climate change. We don't want climate change. Well, if anything has been made clear in the last couple of years, is that the climate crisis is upon us. It's already happening, and even with our best efforts, even if we can stay on track for the 1.5, the world will need to adapt to the fact that already now we will have some really erratic weather patterns. Seasons might even disappear. A Korean minister told me recently, in Korea we only have 2 seasons. We have summer and we have winter. We seem to have lost spring and autumn. I was in India and I was told about the monsoon that comes whenever it likes, not when it's planned, and lasts twice as long as usually. Harvests going wrong all across Africa. A tornado in Czechia, who would have thought that possible a couple of years ago? So I think the sense of urgency that we need to do something more about adaptation has increased radically over the last couple of years. And then there's another thing that we need to understand, that for some on the planet, financing adaptation is easier than for others. If you look at the efforts to combine, because now we know that it's 2 sides of the same coin, adaptation and mitigation. But if you want to mobilize as much financing as possible, especially also from the private sector, it stands to reason that the private sector will be more interested in investing in mitigation than in adaptation, which means that the public sector will have to take a greater responsibility on the side of adaptation, which also means that if the basis of our cooperation is solidarity, that the richer part of the planet will have to take a greater responsibility in helping the less rich part of the planet, the developing part of the planet, to face the challenges of adaptation. I think that should be the basis of everything we do in the next couple of years. You know that in the EU we have developed an adaptation strategy. I think we were one of the first to do that. We will be operating on that basis. I think that we're also now the largest providers of public finance on adaptation, but I don't say this out of complacency. I say this because I want you to understand that we understand the urgency of the matter. As the adaptation strategy notes, and you'll hear from the panelists today, this effect of climate change can create knock-on effects that cross countries and continents. So local climate impacts can have global consequences. I think this is also something we need to look into. You know, if places on Earth become so hot nobody can live there, people will move away from there. Where will they move to? What will that mean for other parts of the world, etc.? It's just one example of many, many. And I believe that adaptation should also be seen now in light of security issues. It's about time the traditional security community understood that the climate crisis is the biggest security threat we have as humanity and as regions, and that adaptation efforts, adaptation support is a security measure, not just something you do out of the kindness of your heart or out of short-term self-interest or because it's the right thing to do. No, it's also because you need to invest in our common and collective security, and it's part of that. So that is why it gives me great pleasure to announce here in Glasgow today that the European Union is officially joining Adaptation Without Borders as its first international supporter, and we pledge an initial contribution of 700,000 euros for 2022. So it is a new global partnership working to strengthen international cooperation and adaptation and to build resilience to the cross-border and cascading impacts of climate change. I believe that with these funds, the partnership will be able to significantly scale up its efforts to identify and manage cross-border and cascading climate risks, and to also look at the solutions. So, with the funds we provide, Adaptation Without Borders will also be better equipped and enabled to work with local stakeholders to appraise policy options to better manage these risks, and ultimately develop climate-resilient solutions that strengthen resilience and minimize the potential for maladaptation. So during next year, Adoption Without Borders will focus on working with and through its partners based in Africa. We'll hear more about that soon. And we look forward to collaborating with the African Union Commission and with national adaptation planners across both continents to learn from each other in this regard. You know, and I want to end on this, for Europe, Africa is our sister continent. The sooner we realize that and the full implications of that, Europe cannot prosper without Africa prospering. And Europe prospering can help Africa prosper. So that's, I think, the way we should look at it. If we don't solve our common challenges together, they will not get solved. And that's why I believe investing in adaptation is so important, and engaging also on policy level with our partners in Africa is also so important. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice President. I just have one follow-up question, if I may, using